Hello and welcome to Boss Raid, the show where we take an in-depth look at the bosses of video games. There are many games in the Zelda franchise, and don't worry, we'll get to them eventually. But the game we're looking at today is one that I feel doesn't get as much attention, despite being an excellent game. It's also one of my favorites. That game, of course, is The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons. Oracle of Seasons was released alongside Oracle of Ages in 2001 by Capcom. While the gameplay is largely the same, each game had its own world and story. Both games also played similarly to Link's Awakening, using a similar engine and borrowing many of the same assets, such as graphics, controls, enemies, and items, though each game introduced many new concepts as well. The games can also interact with each other. By using link cables and/or passwords, you can unlock new items and expand the storyline of both games. While Age's focus was on puzzles, Seasons is more of an action-oriented game. The story of Seasons is quite simple. General Onox appears and captures Din. Din isn't the goddess of power in this game, she's actually the Oracle of Seasons. Onox traps Din in his castle, causing the seasons of the world to become chaotic. Changing seasons can be helpful, however, such as freezing over a stream to create a path, or making climbable vines grow in the summer. Eventually, Link acquires the Rod of Seasons that allows him to change seasons at will. You start with only winter, but eventually you're able to imbue the rod with the power of the other 3 seasons. To rescue Din and restore order to the world, Link must find the 8 essences of nature, each hidden within a dungeon no less, and each dungeon guarded not only by a boss, but a mini-boss as well. And here at Boss Raid, the more bosses the better. Gnarled Root Dungeon is the first dungeon in the game, and it's here we find our first mini-boss. The brother Glorias, who aren't actually named in the English version of the game, will run around the room and toss a boomerang to each other. Link will only have a sword and bombs at this point. They're pretty easy to defeat. If you can, try to get them close and attack both at the same time. If not, just focus on one of them. You can also try to throw a bomb, but they won't stay in the same place for too long. Defeating one will defeat the other. Aquamicius is a very easy fight, being the first true boss of the game. Its weak spot is the horn. It'll slowly walk forward and back, and when its horn flashes, it'll shoot 3 projectiles from its mouth. It also has a charge attack. Keep slashing at the horn, try to dodge the projectiles, and soon Aquamicius will fall and you can collect the first of the 8 essences of nature, the fertile soil. The second dungeon is Snake's Remains, and here, Facade makes a return from Link's Awakening as our second mini-boss. It'll summon beetles that drop from the ceiling. They drop hearts and bombs when killed, which, if you couldn't figure it out, will be your clue as to how to damage Facade. It'll shoot fire and open holes in the ground that will damage you if you fall into them. Just bomb Facade in the face to end this fight quickly. What would a Zelda game be without bombing some Dodongos? Well, at least one Dodongo. It has 2 attacks, spitting 2 fireballs in quick succession, and charging. To shoot a fireball though, it has to spend a long time drawing in breath, leaving its mouth wide open. When it does this, toss a bomb and Dodongo will suck it up. This will leave it vulnerable for a short time. Now simply run over to Dodongo, pick it up using the power bracelet found earlier in the dungeon, then quickly toss it into the spikes to damage it. If you don't toss it fast enough, it'll recover and drop back to the ground, damaging Link in the process. Throw Dongo on the spikes 4 times to defeat it, and recover the next essence, the Gift of Time. Poison Moth's Lair is the third dungeon. After acquiring Rock's Feather and learning how to jump, we encounter Calamari. There are 3 squids here that pop out of the shallow water and shoot fireballs at Link. It may seem like no attacks work on them at first, but like most bosses in the game, there is a trick. It's not required, but if you feed the blue owl in the previous room a mystery seed, it'll give you a cryptic hint. In water, it is invincible. The secret is to slap on the power bracelet and pull them out of the water when they surface. Once out of the water, give them a good throw and they'll start flopping around. You don't have to throw them, but like Dongo, they have a good chance of hitting Link when they fall. It's also possible to throw them back into the water, in which case you'll miss a flop cycle, so be careful not to do that. You can try to hit them when they're flopping, but it's best to just wait, as they move radically and can be hard to dodge if you're too close to them. After they flop jump 3 times, they'll stand up straight. This is when you want to attack. You should be able to get a few sword swings in before they return to the water. After that, grab another squid and repeat the process until they all die. Mafia isn't too difficult. The real enemy here is the pit that you can fall into. It'll fly around the stage in a circle and occasionally spawn in miniature moths that will follow Link. While circling the stage, Mafia will shoot fireballs at Link. You can try to jump from one platform to the other, but I found it easier to just stand on one platform and keep moving. There's also less risk of accidentally falling into the pit. Mafia's fireballs will knock Link back if they connect, so try to stay close to the middle of the platform so if you do get hit, you won't be pushed off. After circling, Mafia will come in for landing on either of the 2 platforms. Stay out of the way and get as many slashes in as you can before it takes off again. Right before taking off, Mafia will either shoot out a variable amount of spinning fireballs or summon mini-moths. You can also attack Mafia while it's circling, but it's a bit harder to do so while also avoiding projectiles. If you fall through the floor, you can use the trampoline to get back up, but you'll have to start the fight over from the beginning. Take down Mafia and you'll receive the bright sun. A short time later, we find ourselves in Dancing Dragon Dungeon, and for a mid-boss, a Gunuma hits pretty dang hard. A Gunuma will make 2 fake clones of himself, which can't be damaged. To reveal the real Gunuma, light the torches in the middle of the room, and a shadow will appear underneath him. This is the one you want to attack. A Gunuma will really only use one tactic: appear, shoot a giant fireball, disappear, repeat. The fireballs do a lot of damage, so avoiding them is important in this fight. You need to light both torches in order to attack, so even if you know which Gunuma is real, you won't be able to damage him unless both torches are lit. The fires also die quickly, so you'll need to do a lot of fire starting. Thankfully, there's tall grass in the corners that drop ember seeds if you need them. There's a small window right after a Gunuma appears that you can attack him and stop his fireballs, and with good timing, you can make this fight a little easier. Goma is the boss of Dancing Dragon Dungeon. It'll start by dropping into the stage, so get out of the way. Goma moves around randomly, up and down slowly, and side to side quickly. To defeat it, you need to hit the eye with the slingshot acquired shortly after defeating a Gunuma. However, you can't hit its eye until you've taken out its claw first. Stay to Goma's side, and just attack the claw with your sword. If you see the claw raise, back away, as Goma's about to attempt a grab attack, which does massive damage to Link. Once the claw's been dealt with, Goma will summon in a bunch of little helpers. They drop seeds of all kinds when defeated, so you don't have to worry about running out while shooting at Goma. Try to stand in front of Goma when you can, and shoot at the eye when it opens. A good time to shoot is right after Goma finishes summoning, as it will be standing still with its eye wide open for just long enough to attack. However, it might be tricky shooting past and avoiding the summons. It doesn't matter much which seeds you use, as all of them seem to do the same amount of damage. Just keep shooting at Goma's eye, and the soothing rain will be yours. Taking a quick break from the normal dungeon delving, Link has the option of engaging the Great Mawlin, a troublemaker of Holodrum. Though he does have a fortress, there isn't much to the interior. After moving through one room with 2 henchmen, you'll find yourself confronting the Great Mawlin. The fight is simple: equip the power bracelet and throw his bombs back at him. After hitting him a few times, he'll mention that he can keep fighting as long as he doesn't drop one of his bombs behind him and start a fire. So naturally, you'll need to try to make him drop one of his bombs behind him and start a fire. Timing can be a little difficult as his speed is increased during this part, but as long as you just keep chucking bombs at him, you'll eventually hit him right before he throws one, he'll drop it, and his fortress will be destroyed. After the fight, he'll move into the empty house in Sunken City. Seiger is a very straightforward mid-boss. Unlike most other battles, there are no real tricks here. All you need to do is attack the orb on the end of its tail. However, Seiger isn't going to make things easy for you. It has some very fast spin attacks, a few of which are pattern based. Overall, these attacks aren't too difficult to avoid, but I highly recommend using Pegasus Seeds for the entire fight for a boost of speed. Also know that Seiger's tail has a chance to change positions after every spin attack, so you'll just have to adjust your own position to match. Digdogger is an interesting boss. Following the common Zelda formula of using a newly acquired item in a dungeon to defeat the boss of said dungeon, Link needs to use the magnetic gloves here. Digdogger has 2 stages. In his first stage, it'll hop around attempting to land on Link. There's a spiked ball on a pedestal in the upper right corner that can be pushed and pulled around with the magnetic gloves. Try to hit Digdogger with it when it lands, but be careful not to pull it too close as it can hurt Link as well. It's possible to get Digdogger into a stun lock and hit him multiple times. After 3 hits with the spike ball, Digdogger will break off into 5 smaller Digdoglets, entering stage 2 of the fight. These little guys represent Digdogger's true health. They can be taken out with 1 hit from the spike ball, but you'll have to be quick. If you can take them all out quickly, it'll end the fight. If you fail to take them all out, Digdogger will regroup after a short time, and you'll have to go through stage 1 again. However, the next time Digdogger breaks apart, only the little guys left over from the last stage 2 will remain. Also, stage 1 Digdogger seems to move around more quickly the more stage 2 Digdoglets you take out. Take some time to learn how to make the spike ball go exactly where you want it and you should have no trouble. After Digdogger goes down, you'll recover the nurturing warmth. Next up is Vyre, mid-boss of the Ancient Ruins, and henchman of Onox. Note that I'm now using the Noble Sword here, which does a bit more damage than the Wooden Sword, and also shoots laser beams when Link's at full health. Nice. Vyre's lair is surrounded by spikes, which is doubly unfortunate as Vyre likes to fly around the outer edge of the screen. He shoots 3 different colored fireballs: blue, which he can shoot 1 or 2 at a time, red, which follow Link, and yellow, which will split off into 5 fireballs. You can stop all of these attacks with the sword. You can attack Vyre at any time during the fight, as long as you can catch him. If you try to chase after him, he'll shoot a fireball while you're close and quickly fly away. A very easy strategy I found was to charge up the sword and stand in the middle of the stage. Just wait for Vyre to fly by and unleash a spin attack. He'll taunt you at the start of the fight and continue blabbing throughout. After taking his health down a bit, he'll split off into 2 bat-like creatures. Take these out and Vyre will be defeated. The boss of Ancient Ruins, Manhandler, is probably the toughest boss thus far. A giant buzz blob with 4 very, familiar looking plants growing from its body. Using the sword here will only result in damaging Link. Our new item from this dungeon, the magic boomerang, is the key here. Manhandler will wander around the room while the flowers shoot fireballs at Link. All the while, most of the ground is moving, making dodging difficult, as if the fight wasn't already challenging enough. You need to take out each of Manhandler's flowers, which can only be attacked when their mouths are open. To make matters worse, it seems like most of the time the flowers closest to Link have a greater chance to not attack, meaning you'll have to come up with some fancy boomerang throwing to damage them. I used the Pegasus Seeds here so the floor wouldn't slow me down quite as much. Once all 4 flowers are gone, Manhandler will increase speed and run around the room. Continue attacking with the boomerang. You can even do a bit of a stun lock here. Once you've done enough damage, Manhandler will reveal its soft innards for a very short time, in which you need to slice it with the sword. Just 1 hit to this core will bring Manhandler down and you will receive the well-earned Blowing Wind. Once again, we have a duo of siblings making up the mid-boss fight, post-sisters Margaret and Amy. You'll encounter them separately in the dungeon, but now you get to fight them both in a proper mid-boss battle. One sister, holding the lantern, will leave a trail of fire. The other, holding the sword, will charge at Link. They're both pretty easy to dispatch, but you need to make sure to keep the fires lit at all times. If at any time all 4 fires go out, you'll be sent back to the dungeon's entrance. Glee Hawk, I hope I'm saying that right, is the keeper of Explorer's Crypt, a twin-headed fire-breathing dragon. This fight is relatively simple compared to Manhandler. First you need to take out the head while dodging the flames. If you remove just 1 head, it will begin flying around, creating another obstacle to avoid. If you wait too long, the severed head will reattach itself. I found it easiest to just stand between the two heads and spin attack when they're close enough to hit both at the same time. Once the heads are defeated, the dragon will become skeletal, and its body will continue to fight. In this stage, the dragon will charge at Link. After each charge, it'll jump up and down, causing the entire room to shake so violently that Link will be unable to move for a few seconds. You need to use Rock's cape here to jump before Glee Hawk lands, to avoid being stunned. Once it's landed, it'll begin its cycle again by charging. I found the best time to attack is right after Glee Hawk smashes into a wall from charging, right before it jumps. For a faster fight, try to lure Glee Hawk into the bottom corners of the room, that way it won't be able to run to the spikes where Link can't go to attack it. Finish off the dragon to collect the Seed of Life. Fripolar is another straightforward mid-boss once you know the trick. It'll switch back and forth between an ice form and a fire form. The ice form will throw out icy stalagmites, and the fire form will shoot out a trail of fiery pillars. They cause contact damage, but will go away after a few seconds. There are two ways to go about this fight. The first is to use the mystery seeds to force Fripolar to change into ice form. Then switch to ember seeds and shoot it. Fry will always change back into fire form after getting hit, so you'll have to switch back to the mystery seeds to change it again. This method can take a long time, as it takes many shots to take down Fry, and you also have to constantly bring up the menu. When I was a kid, this is the method that I used, but if I'd been smart enough to figure out what the hell Blue Owl was talking about in the previous room, I might have realized there's a much easier way. Wait until Fry shoots out an ice spike. Now hit the spike with a mystery seed to cut it in half. It can now be picked up. Quickly shoot Fry to turn it into fire form, then pick up the ice spike with the power bracelet and throw it at Fry. You can try to hit the ice spike and Fripolar with one triple shot. It only takes about 4 hits from an ice spike to deplete all of Fry's health, making this a very short fight. The only problem is that Fry is very quick, and you might have trouble dodging him, but if you're fast enough, you should just be able to tank the damage and end the fight quickly before taking too much. The boss of Sword and Shield Maze is Medusa Head. It'll cycle between shooting fireballs, sweeping across the room with lasers, and shooting large blue projectiles in a circular pattern that will freeze Link if they hit him. The fight itself is pretty simple. Attack with your sword as much as possible. Shooting Pegasus seeds will turn the tables and freeze Medusa's head for a few short seconds, long enough to get some good attacks in. Rock's cape will also be helpful in jumping over Medusa Head's attacks. This strategy involves a lot of changing items through the menu, but it's not too bad as you only need to switch between 2 items. If there's an easier trick to this fight, I'm unaware of it. Once defeated, you'll pick up the final essence, Changing Seasons. After finally collecting all 8 essences and restoring the Maku tree, Link is now able to lift the dark curse that was preventing him from entering Onox's castle. Onox's castle is extremely simple. Though we do fight Facade again, it's exactly the same fight as the first time, except even more trivial than before. Finally, it's time to take on Onox and rescue Din. This fight is a huge step up in difficulty from any of the previous bosses. Onox does massive damage, so I highly recommend grabbing the protection ring to reduce all damage to 1 heart, and a red potion as well, which will replenish your hearts if you run out. Onox has 2 stages. During the first stage, he'll swing around a giant mace and fling it in front of him. He'll also bring down rocks from the ceiling, which you'll have to dodge. Onox can't be harmed by anything other than spin attacks, so get in as many as you can between dodging rocks and mace attacks. After getting a few hits in, Onox will bring in the still imprisoned Din to hover around him. If you hit Din, Link will take shock damage. It's very hard to hit Onox without hitting Din, so you'll have to equip the Rod of Seasons and hit Din with it to knock her out of the way long enough to get an attack in on Onox. She'll float back towards Onox though, so you'll have to keep swatting at her. Onox will also start summoning tornadoes once Din joins the fight. Though they're not too hard to avoid, what makes this battle tricky is dodging everything and trying to keep Din away while Onox is open. Try to keep as much health as possible during this fight, because the second stage is much tougher. In the second stage, Onox reveals his true form, a dark dragon. This battle takes place using a platformer perspective, as opposed to the usual overhead perspective. The idea here is simple: jump on his hand when he does a smash attack, charge your sword, then jump off doing a spinning attack trying to hit the gem on his head. It's not too hard to pull off, but to increase your chances of landing the attack, try moving against Onox's movement. That is, if you need to jump to the right, wait until Onox is moving left, and vice versa. If you touch his hands at any other time, you'll take damage. Onox will also spit blue flames at Link. There are a few ways to evade them. You can keep moving and change directions to kind of fake Onox out. Or, what I like to do is stand right underneath him so he'll shoot straight down, then just walk out of the way. You can also just jump right over them, as you'll most likely already have Rock's cape equipped. He'll shoot exactly 4 flames before moving on to another attack. He also has a swiping hand attack. If you see Onox move towards one side of the room, quickly run all the way to the other side and you'll be safe. If you can't make it in time, you can also use that level 2 shield that hopefully you brought. Onox will cycle between these attacks until his health gets low, at which point he will add one more attack to his arsenal. He'll spit fireballs in a sweeping pattern. These can be a little bit more difficult to avoid, but they'll always be in the same pattern. Keep attacking the same way until Onox finally falls. Onox may be defeated, but the threat is not over. Remember how I mentioned earlier that linking games can expand the story? Well, if you first play through and beat Oracle of Ages, you'll receive a password. If you enter that password at the start of the new season's playthrough, you'll start what's known as a linked game. You'll find that Kotake and Koume are actually behind Onox's shenanigans, and have kidnapped Princess Zelda in an attempt to revive Ganon. Playing a linked game is also the only way to unlock the Master Sword and Mirror Shield, which I highly recommend before proceeding. You might also want to grab another red potion before heading out to the final battle. 1 red witch and 1 blue witch. Red throws fire, blue throws ice. What you need to do is reflect fire to hit blue, and reflect ice to hit red. Sounds simple, but this is not easy. You can defend against the attacks with the mirror shield, but you can only reflect them with the sword. The witches move around quickly, and you have limited control of aiming your reflected shots. Thankfully, it won't take too many hits to finish this stage of the fight. After that, the witches will combine to become Twinrova. This stage might actually be a little bit easier. Twinrova will switch between 3 different forms: Ice, Fire, and Twin. Ice form will throw spikes and ice crystals. The ground will also be made of solid ice, making it harder to dodge and line attacks up. After taking a few spin attacks from the Master Sword, she'll change into Twin form. This is when you need to pull out the slingshot and hit her with the scent seeds. Once hit, she'll change into Fire form, also changing the stage to now have several lava pits. Fire form will shoot out a flame that will travel for a bit, then split into 3 flame balls that fly in the opposite direction. The projectiles move slowly and have a wide spread, so you shouldn't have too much trouble avoiding them. She can also summon Fire Keys in this form, which can be super annoying, so just try to end this phase by hitting her a lot. Again, after getting hit, she'll go into Twin form, so again use the scent seeds to send her into Ice form. Repeat this strategy a few times to win the fight against Twinrova. Having been defeated, Twinrova offers herself as a sacrifice in Zelda's stead in order to revive Ganon. This is the true final boss of the Oracle series. Ganon will teleport around, attacking when he comes into focus. This is also when he can be attacked. I found it best to try to stay close to the top of the screen with the sword charged and unleash as soon as Ganon appears. He has a few attacks. He can shoot either 3 large projectiles that spread out, or 4 in every direction that each split off into 3 smaller projectiles. Probably his hardest attack to avoid is his trident attack. He'll materialize facing Link's direction and charge forward, though you do have a bit of time to try to get out of the way. He can also do a jump attack, which will stun Link for a short time, then follow up with a huge blast. He'll also occasionally turn the room blue, turning your controls backwards. He'll continuously shoot out just 1 projectile during this phase. You can attack here, but it's probably best to just stay away and wait for the room to turn back. And that's really all there is to this fight. It could be that the Master Sword is just really strong, but I found this fight actually to be pretty easy. I took Ganon down in about 10 hits, and it's not very difficult to hit him. Anyway, once Ganon's been defeated, the game has truly been beaten. Our reward for saving the Oracle, restoring order to the world, and stopping the revival of Ganon? And that's The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. Challenging and well-designed dungeons, rewarding character progression through collecting and upgrading items, an overarching story between two games, and one of the best soundtracks of all time, this is a game that just does everything right in my opinion. As I said at the beginning, it's one of my favorites, and I had a lot of fun replaying it for this video, and I hope you had fun watching it. That's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time on Boss Raid.